on.
He's working on it.
Your light's not working. You punched in, your light's not even lit. There you go.
O great Creator, as we enter the darkest days of seasonal light, we thank you for the lights which do surround us, from store displays to twinkling lights on trees and awnings to candles which adorn our mantels, tables, and windowsills. Let us keep in mind and in our hearts the value, benefit, and importance to us and to the wider world to embrace peace, goodwill, and fervent charity to all. Amen.
Candles on tables, how ironic. I listen to you. Firebug.
Before we have the adoption of the agenda, I was asked by Supervisor Eisen to go ahead and withdraw resolution number. I was asked by Supervisor Eisen to withdraw resolution number 153, 12/2022. I'm sorry, that's not it, I apologize. 154, 12/2022, to name the County Administration Building the David Albrecht Administration Building. And the reason that is when we were looking up, we found a thing in April from 2014, I believe it is, that in order to have this done, it has to go back to the Committee of Jurisdiction, which would be the Buildings and Facilities. So that'll be taken up tomorrow at their meeting. So that's the only reason that will be withdrawn. Supervisor Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had also sent an email requesting Resolution 153 be withdrawn.
Okay. Do you want to withdraw it at this time?
Yes, please.
Okay, and resolution number 153 is also being withdrawn by Supervisor Dowling this evening. So resolutions number 153 and 154 are withdrawn at this time. Okay, Supervisor Albrecht, the adoption of the agenda.
I move to adopt this evening's agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. This time will be allowed for persons presented to express their opinion on any resolution or ordinance that appears on the agenda, as well as any matter over which the body has jurisdiction. I just want to remind you all that it's a 2 minutes that you have to go ahead and speak on this, and you'll hear the buzzer going when the time comes. And I'll have to get this off from here. I'll have to get this off so I can get back up it. Okay, state your name and address and what you would like to speak on, please.
Paul Eisen, 1807 Brighton Beach Road, Fox Crossing, Supervisor 4. Fellow supervisors, I seek to alert you to 2 issues you may desire to pursue. Number 1 is in respect to background information to memorialize the County Administration Building in the name of David Albrecht. Number 2 is in respect to background information preparing for January 3rd special orders meeting, iPads, and social media. To better inform supervisors who joined the county board after March 2018 about the merits of recognizing David Albrecht's stature within the county, I invite you to review the video clip of County Board meeting February 10th, 2015 at 22 minutes and 33 seconds. And if you continue to observe the next 45 minutes of the presentation, you will find yourself also prepared for the social media policy considerations of the Information Technology Department. The video clip documented the special orders presentation introducing proposed rules for electronic devices. And if you want to see more of David Albrecht in action, turn to any county board meeting prior to April 2018. All of the achievements I have cited in the resolution for David Albrecht are documented in the archives of county board videos, and videos can be accessed through the minutes of the county board. Just identify the completion of the project and find the video through the minutes, or ask me.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to the board this evening? Anyone else wishing to speak to the board this evening? Please state your name and address.
My name's Deb Werner Allen. I live at 1120 Lager Lane, Oshkosh. Bobby Cremo III, Salvador Ramos, Nicholas Cruz, Devin Patrick Kelly, Darren Brooks Jr., all recent mass killers, all were users of marijuana. Cannabis causes psychosis, psychosis causes violence, says Dr. Alex Burnson. Cannabis is considered an environmental risk factor that increases the odds of psychotic episodes, and longer exposure is associated with greater risk of psychosis and dose-dependent factor. The drug acts as a stressor that leads to emergence and persistence of psychosis, per the Psychiatric Times. Denmark's study found cannabis may be responsible for 25% of new cases of schizophrenia in young men. Previous estimates were 5 to 10%. Legalizing marijuana doesn't eliminate the black market. It exists alongside the legal market, and the problems are not benign. From Colorado to California, illegal growers have been associated with automatic weapon shootings and homicides. The illegal market often dwarfs legal production, meaning the drug cartels are not going to be going anywhere. The hope of legalization will direct police resources to other crimes, preventing the persistence of illegal drugs alongside the legal market requires a lot of money. California cannabis-related costs now well exceed cannabis revenue. The majority of sheriffs in the U.S. are against legalization of marijuana. Is this what we want for our children? This is from the New York Times of July 22, wrote, in addition to uncontrollable vomiting and addiction, adolescents who frequently use high doses of cannabis may also experience psychosis that could possibly lead to lifelong psychiatric disorder, an increased likelihood of developing depression, and suicidal ideation, changes in their brain anatomy, connectivity, and poor memory. A major change from their previous stance. Is this the risk that our children and our community is this really worth it, this risk? Winnebago County has 1 in 3 people or households that are below the poverty level. So how is legalizing pot going to help them? Legalizing marijuana is a very dangerous and short-sighted, so I would ask that you vote no, putting legalization of marijuana on the spring 2023 ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? State your name and address, please.
At Demler, 1346 Babbitts Avenue, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I also want to talk about the pot issue. Before I get started, I just want to share a little bit about me, why I'm taking the stance I'm taking, and why I'm so adamant about it. As of last October, 2 months ago, I celebrated 40 years of sobriety. Thank you. For the last 30 years, I've been the head minister at the Winnebago County Jail Ministry with a staff of 15 people with the help of sheriff and previous sheriffs. So I've been very involved with the sheriff's jail ministry there. I've been in the ministry for 35 years. I draw no salary from anything I do. Everything I do is absolutely free. I've been fortunate to be a guest speaker at many meetings, numerous meetings about my experiences in jail ministry and other things. So I'm talking to you tonight from experience, my perspective. You'll see that it deals with, when it comes to the drugs, that I deal with so many different barriers. It's unbelievable what I see at that jail. 30 years ago when I first got involved with that jail, I had a senior officer come up to me and said to me, 92 to 94% of the people in that jail at that time, 30 years ago, was alcohol-related problems. That no longer exists, my friends. That is out the door. It is now hardcore drugs. I have witnessed firsthand the toll it has taken on our society and our community with the use of drugs. Unfortunately, most of the inmates, not most, a lot of the inmates, when they leave that jail, they go back to that lifestyle, and it costs them their lives. I have buried 4 of those people, and I have brought closure to family members because they went back to that lifestyle. So here's what I want to get to. In all my years of ministering to people, and as a recovering person for 40 years, I'm talking from experience. Never once in my experience have I ever had a person tell me, "Oh, Ed, I started out with heroin or crack or meth." They always started out with pot or alcohol. Always.
You're gonna have to wind it up, sir, quick.
Okay, real quick. It's always been a gateway. My question to the county is this. Do you want to be like the state of Colorado, where they started out 2 years ago legalizing marijuana? This last year, now they legalized the consumption of mushrooms. It is a gateway. You cannot afford to let this happen in this county. In closing is this, I would ask you to think clearly, objectively, and do not give to the pressures of what people are going to say, saying yes to this. You must vote no for the sake of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Go ahead.
Okay, Shauna Zestera, 1882 Clairville, Supervisor of District 32. I'd like to talk about two issues real quickly. This is regarding just encouraging the fire departments to have precedent on the ARPA money. I know that the ARPA committee is doing a very good job on it. I'm not complaining at all. From Brian Harbison, he emailed me today, the Winnebago County Fire Chiefs Association has prioritized our needs for providing public safety in Winnebago County and identified radio replacement as the highest priority, as you know. We desperately need funding to provide the radios, as most of our communities will have to borrow to replace them at worst, or not replace them at all. The county fire protection overall is in a critical battle, and he told me that today. We really are in a critical financial situation for not only funding, but personnel, equipment, and support from our legislators. Our request, if granted, will enable our departments to continue to provide the effective services to all the residents and visitors to our county. The request will also allow the continued interoperability with the law enforcement and other county agencies to satisfy any emergency situation. Secondly, I'd like to talk about the resolution that we will be talking about with a referendum on marijuana. And I'm going to be focusing just on, I have 47 seconds. So I graduated from a rural high school in northern Lynn County that included the city of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. There were 55 people in my class, so we were mainly farm kids and small town kids. Word was that our school was the drug point of the county. I remember drug sniffing dog coming through, etc. I grew to love people that would smoke pot before and after school. Even my art teacher was said to smoke a reefer with his students. I loved that guy. I loved them. One later graduated to meth. He looks forward to dentures. He died on the table twice after being found in a dumpster. Prior to that, he had his truck stolen and was badly assaulted,
Please
et
wrap it
cetera,
up
et
quickly.
cetera. So I will be voting no on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board this evening? State your name
Yes,
and
Len
address.
Kaczewski, 832 Neff Court, Box Crossing.
Just
I'd
hold
also
on.
like to speak on Resolution 151-122022, dealing with the proposed marijuana referendum. In 1978, I began my legal career at Fort Knox, Kentucky as a prosecutor for the Army. Half of our caseload was involving the sale and distribution of Kentucky's #1 cash crop, which was not tobacco. After I moved to Winnebago County in 1982, I became a defense attorney. I have had so many clients, dozens after dozens after dozens, whose lives have been destroyed by the use of marijuana. It saps ambition. It causes all the problems that the previous speakers have talked about. And it's just generally something that's very negative for society. Those states that have legalized marijuana have seen an increased prevalence of buzzed driving and more fatalities and accidents on the roadways. So I think the legalization of marijuana, especially for recreational use, is a very poor idea. Second of all, I oppose the resolution because I think we've had way too many resolutions that are basically things placed on the ballot simply for political purposes. And I can't help but think that the purpose of putting this marijuana referendum on the spring ballot is simply to gin up support for persons that are going to vote, and also vote for candidates that favor things like marijuana legalization, which I think is against the mainstream thinking in our county.
Thank you. Could we have your name and address again, please, sir?
Sure. Len Kaczynski, 832 Neff Court in Fox Crossing.
Thank you. Now, we'll go back out in the public again.
Thank you. Ellen Allen, 5851 County Road A, Oshkosh. I'm here for a different issue. I'm here for the taxes, Winnebago County taxes. In November, I took the time to go to our Town of Vinland meeting, and we spent about 2 hours looking at things that were going on in our township. Before we took a vote in that township, we had a representative from this board come forth and present that there was going to be a decrease in the county taxes. It was presented that there was something like 6 million was to be given back to the people, and that there was going to be a decrease of about 3.7%. That was what I remember. I'm pretty good on numbers, so it's about that. I took note. Very surprised, I opened up my tax bill, and I take a look, and we have a 3.7% increase in taxes. It's $40 million extra in this undesignated fund. There's $33 million in the COVID relief fund. There is a lot of money in this county, and it is not your money. It's the people's money. And I would like to know why we are increasing the taxes this year, because we should not be. We should be decreasing the taxes.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board this evening? Anyone else wishing to speak to the board this evening? Last time? Anyone in the public? Yep. Anyone from the public wishing to speak? Okay, we'll go to Zoom. From Zoom, who? Ed Hudick? You'll have to unmute yourself, sir. Then state your name and address, please.
I'll do that. Ed Hudak, 1207 Skyview Drive in Nino. I'm curious on why this referendum is coming before a governmental agency that has no power over the use of marijuana. I think the county board is being manipulated by people, as Mr. Kaczynski said, to gin up the vote in some way in the spring election. It has nothing to do with the power that the agency that the county board has been assigned. But people on the board have decided that they're going to manipulate the board in order to get people to come out who probably normally wouldn't even show up because they think they can get marijuana approved. And I want the board members to realize that. Now, if you want to be part of that, that's fine, but you folks are nonpartisan. And you're supposed to be act in a nonpartisan way, and this definitely is a partisan position. So I would encourage the board not to even consider this as a referendum, and to perhaps even vote this down, please. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
I'm Michael Robinson, 1332 Congress Avenue in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I'm District 15 County Board Supervisor. Well, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. When I served in Vietnam, any Marine, I don't care if he was an officer, he did not go out on any combat operations after smoking marijuana. And not only slowed down things, but Marines got killed because of marijuana. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board this evening on this part? Anyone else wishing to speak to the board? Last time, anyone else? Supervisor Cox, you have your light on for some reason? Okay. All right. We'll call that. Next is communication, petitions, memorials, accounts, and commendations. Yours is working, just hold on.
Good evening, everyone. We have 3 resolutions from other counties that will all be referred to the Legislative Committee. One from Juneau County, Resolution Number 22-33, authorization to conduct a countywide referendum on clean water now for Wisconsin. From Marathon County, Resolution Number R62-22, a resolution requesting the state of Wisconsin to review and revise the entry-level compensation rate for assistant district attorneys. And one from Price County, Resolution 51-22, requesting the state of Wisconsin to review and revise the compensation rate for assistant district attorneys. We have 2 commendations tonight. Excuse me. The first one is for Lori Hella. Lori Hella began with Human Services as an economic support specialist on September 11th, 2000. She has spent more than 22 years assisting thousands of the most vulnerable citizens of Winnebago County to have health care and be able to put food on the table for their families. During that time, she has navigated the complicated state systems and all the constant changes with patience and dedication. She had many clients that knew her by name who would take time to send her notes of appreciation for her kind and compassionate service. Lori was a great morale booster for her teammates. We appreciate her for the great service she provided over the last 22 years and wish her well on her next adventures. The next commendation is for Charles Romberg. Chuck Romberg began his career with Winnebago County as a janitor watchman in July of 1994. In September of 1995, he was promoted to a Class II operator, which he held until his retirement. Chuck was always eager to accept any tasks, some of which included mowing the roadsides, hauling asphalt to the paving crew, and plowing snow. Chuck was an extremely dedicated employee, especially during those winter snow months. Capable of running any piece of equipment and performing each job with minimal instruction. With 28 years of county service, Chuck retired from the Highway Department on December 2nd, 2022. Chuck is looking forward to enjoying his retirement years with family and friends and enjoying his passion of hunting. Please join me in expressing our best wishes as he enjoys his retirement. The other thing I would like to say is on your desks tonight, we put envelopes with scholarship applications in them. If you could get those out to the kids early, then they'll have more of a chance to get them back to us to apply for that scholarship. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Fari, did you have something?
I did, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'd like to respond to the comment made publicly about the Winnebago County property tax. I'm the supervisor that gave that explanation to the Town of Vinland Board. During the budget process, I try to keep the towns I represent informed about that process. My comment was we were reducing the mill rate by 46 cents a thousand, and I believe that is still correct. We might have varied that by a penny or two. Now, when you reduce the mill rate, obviously we should see a reduction in county tax to the municipalities that pay the tax. And I certainly sympathize with the comments, because to this day, I do not understand why the county tax went up. Certainly in the town of Vinland. In fact, I'm told the only place they went down was the city of Neenah and part of the city of Appleton. So perhaps at some point in the future, we can get a more detailed explanation of actually how that works. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, sir. I was signing in for the next comment, the reports from commissions, committees, and boards.
Okay. Reports for committees and commissions and boards. Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The UW Education Extension Agriculture Department has announced a Discovering 4-H series for Winnebago County children, grades K through 12 and grades 3 through 6. And there are free project boxes and Zoom activities. There'll be 2 in January, 2 in February for each of those grade levels. For more information, please contact Dana Berger, the Winnebago County 4-H program educator, at Dana, D-A-N-A, .Berger, B-E-R-G-E-R, at wisc.edu. And I have a second announcement. I sit on a national board of an affiliated organization of the Episcopal Church, which awards grants for educational material. The chaplain at Lincoln Hills Copper Lake, the secure detention facility for incarcerated youth in Wisconsin, contacted me for a grant for 36 graphic Bibles for children who have requested them. It's something that she couldn't avail herself of through her job. The Bibles cover books Genesis through Revelations. The children were looking for books that Bibles they could actually understand. Then I remembered that Supervisor Haran sat on a local board, and I approached her as well. And so, besides the 36 Bibles that the chaplain received from my organization, Supervisor Haran provided an additional 65 graphic Bibles for the incarcerated youth at Lincoln Hills Copper Lake. The chaplain up there is hired through the Department of Justice, and she cannot use any sort of tax money for any kind of religious material, even in her position as the she's a paid chaplain, but she can't get material. So between Supervisor Haran and I, we've managed to get about 100 books for these Bibles for these children. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Bender.
I'd just like to give you a little update on the UW Oshkosh Fox Cities. We talked about the campus that was closing. They only had 60 students, and we actually put the RFP on hold for the engineering for the cafeteria. We're trying to set up a meeting with the Board of Regencies to get a perspective on what their thought is for the outlying campuses. Neither Outagamie County nor Winnebago County want to invest money in a building if we're not guaranteed that we're going to be there for at least 5 years. So we're mailing them a letter, trying to set up a meeting with them so that we can sit down and find out what their expectation is. Right now, enrollment's down all over. We still are the second largest campus out of the 12 that exist. Milwaukee's got like 860, and we're around 750, 760. So we had a meeting with Chancellor Levitt. He assured us that we're going to be around for a long time. They want to work on the planetarium. They're basically doing fundraising. They need like a little over $1 million to get that. So he believes that we're here to stay, but before we invest the county's money going any further, we want to meet with the Board of Regencies. We want to look at the MOU. It's a 75-year MOU. There's about 20-some years left on it, but there's some things on there that probably aren't being followed that we would like to clarify. So that's where that is. I just want you to know that we were aware of this well before the letter that you got tonight in your packet. We've been working on this for the last 2 months. I probably could have informed you last month, but we're still working on it. So that's where it is right now. The letters get sent off to the Board of Regencies, and hopefully they will set up a time and meet with us, and we can go forward on that. And an update on the UW Extension, the health and well-being educator, that position should be going out for sometime the end of December, first part of January. And the extension director did add a provision in there that they will be working with the Diversity Affairs Commission. So that position will include now time to work with that commission. So they will have somebody to help facilitate that meeting, help set the meetings up, help record them. They will have a full-time person helping that commission go forward. So hopefully that helps, and that commission can be on the right track, and we can make some good accomplishments. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Defferding.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to make an announcement that, because it's coming up pretty soon, it's only a couple months away, but in February is the NACO Legislative Conference happening in Washington, D.C. I will be attending there. I serve on the Justice and Public Safety Committee, and as well as meeting there for the committee, we will be having some time to speak with various representatives in Congress as well as possibly Senate. So if there's any Winnebago County related issues connecting to the federal government, by all means, reach out to me. Please talk to me, and I can bring that up with our legislators. Thank you. And the date for that, I should say, is February 10th, 11th through the 14th.
Thank you. Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to report that the Alicia D. Smith Public Library in Menasha was the recipient of the Wisconsin Library Association 2022 Programming Innovation Award for its SmithWorks Makerspace. And the Makerspace is for preteens through adults to explore a wide range of topics and utilizes the expertise of community members and business owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Hintz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to let the board know that probably around March, and this is gonna matter more to the people who aren't on their first term here, we're gonna have the floodplain mapping coming back through. And I have been working with Carrie and with Jerry on this, and we are going to have everybody we can possibly get here in these presentations. We're gonna have FEMA, the DNR, the city. We're going to try to get as many property owners as we can get in here, because we need to get this, we need to make a decision on this. And what I have had them do is I'm going to have them get everybody we can get here, get all the input we can get, so we can actually make a decision. We don't want to kick this can down the road anymore. And I'm not going to go into arguing for or against it right now or give you any reasons. That's what the presentation is going to be for. I'm just letting you all know that that's coming up probably around March or so. So thank you.
Do you know where that will be at?
Not at this time, because they don't even have a date for it. They're thinking March, that we're going to be able to get all the cats herded.
Thank you. Supervisor Haran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to add to what Supervisor Powers said. The Bibles that are going to Lincoln Hills are going to have the young people who are there will have the opportunity to take those Bibles home with them and put their name in it. Literacy is huge in the Haran family, and so I just want everybody to know that that's happening. Along with that, the Education Foundation of Neenah has granted our Harrison Street home with between $500 and $1,000 to start a library there. And there has been one of the education professors at UWO who says she gets 15 books each month, and she is going to donate those there as well. Again, these young people will be able to sign those books and take them home if that is what they choose. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Contrary to popular opinion, the Winnebago Community Park is open during the wintertime. And one of the new features that we have is a sled closet, or where you can bring your kids or anyone to come and slide. There are like 4 or 5 sleds. You can use them on the sleds at the northern end of the park, and then return them. And hopefully, from what Steve Bender tells me, Supervisor Bender tells me, it's very popular the first weekend. And obviously, if we get more snow, it can be more popular. And hopefully, in the future, maybe we can have ice skating there. And also, look forward to there's an event that the Parks Department is working with the school system that will be in January, where there'll be some type of race type of thing, and then there would be selling hot chocolate in it. That's coming in January. So the county community park is open during the wintertime. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick update from JPS. We, over the last couple of JPS committee meetings, have been talking about different approaches to help streamline and improve efficiency at board. One of the concepts that has been brought forward through Supervisor Eisen is a consent calendar. And we considered it last committee meeting and would like to bring it forward for consideration here at the board. I know some are actually familiar with it in application. We're going to be asking that we could maybe get on the schedule for one of the special order meetings to do a little education on what it is, so we can fully understand how it could be leveraged. Corporation Council did some great feedback work as well on how it's been used on 4 or 5 different county boards, and would love to share that information. And then hopefully we can vote on that resolution at the following meeting. Thank you.
Do you know when you'll want to be bringing that at a special session?
I'm sure hoping in January. I don't know what the agenda looks.
The reason I say special sessions, this is a good time for me so I don't forget. You can write it in your book. We're also going to be having a special session in February.
Oh.
We have so many things going on, and we don't want any more of these midnight meetings. So there will be a special meeting in February. So we'll have January and February plus our regular meetings. So you'll have plenty of meetings.
Well, no, it's
The
fine.
first Tuesday,
It's the first Tuesday of February?
February 7th.
Okay. And if we have a full agenda in January, we could do this in February, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, not seeing any other lights. We'll continue on. Next would be, we'll do it in 2 sessions here. For the first, for the approval of October 31st, November 1st, and 2nd, 2022 budget session. Do I hear a motion to approve them? Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. And then November 15th, 2022 session proceedings. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. Now we'll have our county executive report from Executive Dable.
Oh, no. There we go. First, I wanted to thank the chairman and the clerk's office for putting on a wonderful event last night for us to get together. That was nice. It was a pleasure getting to know some of you better. A few things for my report tonight. First, I want to talk about the ARP Commission. At the last board meeting, we claimed the entire ARPA allocation as lost revenue. Since then, there have been a lot of questions and comments about what we did and talk about the upcoming resolution to create a Spirit Fund and change the name of the ARPA Commission to the Spirit Commission. I wanted to clear a few things up. First, I wanted to address exactly what the American Rescue Plan Act set out to do. These dollars were to increase resiliency in our communities. During the pandemic, we experienced many deficiencies within our community: housing, access to decent internet, adapting to virtual settings, continuing to provide essential services, high volumes in our trails, parks, and waterways. We saw spikes in substance abuse, domestic violence, and saw hospitals near or at capacity. I did not agree with the policy to print $4 trillion. We have seen inflation hit us hard at the grocery stores and in other areas in our daily lives. But sending this money back would not unprint it. It would only serve to hit us twice, with inflation and the inability to help increase the resiliency in our communities. This is why the Neighborhood Improvement Grant was focused on projects that serve our most vulnerable people in our communities, the ones that I knew would be hit the hardest by printing $4 trillion. When we proposed claiming our dollars as lost revenue, we were following federal guidance to its fullest. The feds asked everyone to start with lost revenue calculations first, so we did. Following their guidance and formulas, we were able to claim in entirety as lost revenue after 2022 is complete. Everything we have done complies with federal regulation and law. We played by the same rules as every other entity in the nation. We could have simply let that money roll over into our general fund to be spent now or in the future, with no further tracking or assurance that the money would be spent for its original purposes. That was not a position I was willing to take. This is why the Spirit Fund was brought forward. I'm committed to using these dollars to increase the resiliency of our communities. I want to ensure that there would be oversight, that these dollars would go to make sure the lives of our people are better. Since the money is legally no longer subject to ARPA reporting requirements, our auditors told us that we could not continue to call the fund holding this money the ARPA fund. We decided to call it the Spirit Fund to remind ourselves that this should still be spent in the spirit of ARPA. Keeping it in a separate fund would help us track and report on how every dollar is spent in a transparent manner. I really wanted to maintain the transparency with this money. I admit my communication has been poor. The name changes may have the appearance of being cute or trying to get around the system. For that, I am sorry, and I will take full responsibility for. For the maneuver of claiming our allocations in entirety as lost revenue, I will own and be in steadfast support of that maneuver. We have protected our citizens from future clawbacks and made the labor of reporting this manageable for the future. We have removed the pressures of allocating all the money by 2024 and spending them all by 2026. We have given ourselves the ability to be more flexible with that and what we spend these funds on, as well as give us time to wait and see what other challenges lie ahead with a likely global recession upon us. When people ask me why other counties did not do this, I pose the same question, because they should have. Next, I wanted to talk about the marijuana referendum that is before you today. One of the 4 key tenets of my platform was reform. Specifically, I ran on reforming marijuana laws because I do not believe in ruining the lives of people over a drug that is legal in 39 states and Washington, D.C. It is my personal belief that marijuana should be decriminalized and legalization should be explored. Keeping marijuana in this gray area is causing a stress and confusion for our law enforcement. Is it legal? Is it not? In my opinion, they have much more important issues to focus on. Nonetheless, I will veto a resolution which puts a referendum on the ballot in any election. First, these types of referendum questions accomplish nothing. Wisconsin counties and municipalities have proposed advisory referendums, questions for marijuana legalization, restricting reform, closing dark store loopholes, and these ballot measures continue to pass, yet nothing changes. The reality is Wisconsin lacks laws which allow for direct legislation which would change the statutes purely based on a ballot measure. We do live in a constitutional republic for a reason. Any change is only possible through a legislative body. In other words, the taxpayers of this county will spend money on a ballot survey which will accomplish nothing. We already know the majority of Wisconsin residents support the legalization of marijuana, as it shows in every referendum that we've seen. This body nor this referendum will change any of that, and I object to using the ballot box for any political gain while offering no real outcome. Second, I will not become a politician who promises one thing and takes praise for accomplishing nothing. Patting ourselves in the back by going to the ballot with this question amounts to political lip service. Instead, I would propose a review of the county code and the powers this body has under 59.54(25) of the statutes to enact forfeiture of possession of marijuana. Winnebago County currently has a $200 forfeiture for these items. we could reduce the forfeiture and achieve a better result in the path of this proposed referendum. This body has the ability to do so, which brings me to my last point. This resolution is not seeking to be an advisory to this body. This resolution already has determined legalized marijuana is the desired outcome, and such a vote would not matter. This body cannot make marijuana legal in Wisconsin or the United States. Therefore, this referendum would be an advisory to state and federal legislators and the governor and the president, but not us. Rather than pass this resolution, I would ask this body to refer this issue to JPS for a review of our ordinance and for that committee to recommend, to present recommendations. It is clear that our legislators in Madison and DC have failed us on this issue. Wisconsin has yet to move any type of legislation easing the laws on marijuana, and worse, Congress has moved nothing to allow for legalization or even the research on marijuana, as it could be beneficial to some. Most certainly was beneficial to my brother while he died and was able to have his pain reduced, his hunger increased, and able to speak to us as family members instead of being off in La La Land. In the end, the leaders of Winnebago County should stick to our lane. The legislator has granted us the ability to reform our county code and reduce forfeiture, and we should look at that as an option, not a resolution. Last, I wanted to talk to you about an emergency declaration that I have just signed roughly an hour or so ago. As you may know, there's some bad weather headed our way late tomorrow and into Saturday. And our first priority is to keep our employers and the general public safe. Tonight, I will be issuing an emergency declaration due to the storm, which will allow us to mobilize immediately for any damages or events that occur. Most urgently, late yesterday, the county was informed that the day-by-day warming shelter will be closing due to extreme staffing shortages. The timing has caused us great concern. Through Human Services, the county will be exercising the powers granted under this emergency order to find placements for homeless individuals. Unfortunately, some high-risk individuals will not be able to be placed in shelters or hotels. We will need a staff to fill shifts between the hours of 4 p.m. and 8 a.m. to ensure shelter is available. In essence, we will be running a homeless shelter for the next 3 weeks, apparently. I am authorizing a significant pay differential for county staff willing to take the shifts voluntarily. Please remember this population can be difficult and have substance use or mental health concerns. Oshkosh Police has committed officers on site to provide security, and we are working with a private security firm to provide more staffing. Each staff member who signs up will meet to be briefed on their duties to ensure that it's a correct fit. It is cases like this where the government needs to step up to ensure that shelter is there for the most vulnerable in our communities. And I do not blame Day by Day for realizing the staff shortages they have. But when this storm hits, a shelter needs to be in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Your appointments now? See no questions, so.
Okay. All right. Here are my appointments for committees, commissions, and board. The ADRC committee, Brooke Slick of Fox Crossing, to a term that expires August 31st, 2025. Ms. Slick, oh, we need them.
Make them individually. Motion's made and seconded for Brooke Slicks. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried.
All right, Diversity Affairs Commission, I'm appointing Melissa Stafford of Neenah to a term expiring April 30th, 2024.
Motion made and seconded for Melissa Stafford. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. This is why I wanted to do it separate. Would Mrs. Stafford please stand up? She is in the back of the room, so you all know who she is. So that's our new appointee. Okay.
All right. For the Human Services Board, I am reappointing Larry Lautenschlager of Oshkosh to a 3-year term expiring December 31st of 2025.
Motion made, second for Larry Lautenschlager. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is my report. First ones I want to do is Supervisor Borchardt and Supervisor Flom is asked to be excused this evening. And on your desk, you'll find a sheet like this here. It's got all the names on and all of that. Want to just look at it real quick? I'm going to have Julie explain real quick. I asked her to run through this. It seems like every year it gets brought up. I know it was previous years even. How can we pay for these people for these per diems and this and that, and they're already paid for, and some are way over. So I asked Julie if the ladies would have some time to go ahead and look this up. So this is where you're at as of right now, and I'll have Julie just kind of talk a little bit about it here.
Okay, everyone, I can, on the slip, when you guys turn in your per diem slips, we go back through them, and then I break it down by how many whole days you have, how many half days, how many days for seminars and stuff. The seminars do not count towards your excess committee days. It's only it's basically your committee meetings, other than the county board. The county board meeting does not count either. So in the last column, you'll see all negative figures now. That's actually how many days you have left. So I'm gonna pick on David, but he has 19 days left until the end of March to use. If you go down, Chairman Egan only has 7. So that's.
Sorry guys, I'll have to quit.
I hope that explains it a little bit. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Any questions? I just thought it'd be interesting that you got to see them, so at the end you don't all of a sudden say, well, they're already paid for, what can we do about it? Well, here's where you're at, and if you have any questions, they do keep a running total of it, and they can tell you. So if no questions, you got one? Okay.
There we go. Now
I
it's
turned it
working.
on, but your light didn't come on.
Okay, thank you.
County executive, we did have one question, but his light didn't come on, so.
Well, I don't really have a question. I just want to, in my opinion, this executive order you issued, I think you're doing the right thing. So, in my opinion, thank you very much for doing that. There's people that should not be freezing to death on our streets within this county at all. So, thank you very much. Just my thoughts.
All right, in one of the biggest things that I've got to do tonight, I'm not excited about doing it because we're going to be losing a clerk of 40-plus years and hard to replace. She's going to be with us till February, but in January will be her last meeting here. So, and it's a small staff they have. They've only got 3.5 people in their office. So we decided to go ahead and appoint a new one now so they could fill that one's place and maybe somebody else, whoever it is, so they have a full staff when it comes February, so they're ready to go. So that's why I asked for your approval tonight. Julie's been with the county for 22 years, so she's halfway there, just about as long as Sue's been, but halfway. So she's been with, she was with the Treasurer's Department, and then she's been between 10 and 11 years, she's already been with the county clerk as assistant in that. So I ask for your approval tonight for Julie Bartles, effective February 25th, 2023 for our new clerk. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Congratulations, Julie. Now you can be ready.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Other than that, I also want to thank all of you that come last night. Those that couldn't make it, I'm sure you couldn't, but I know there's other things that you can do. I know one comment was said, well, I'm not going to come if the county's going to pay for it. Well, the county didn't pay for any of it. It was open bar, you paid for your own bar. The meal costs in your own. The prizes that were handed out, there was a little bit left in there. We've got the prizes and all that. So nothing was the came out of the county coffer or anything like that. It was all, everyone paid more or less on their own. So, so if you can come next year, hopefully I'm still sitting in this chair. I will be looking up towards the northern end. I shouldn't say northern. I've always said I don't want north and south, but up towards the other end than what we had it this year for it to be up there next year. So please come and join us. It was a good time. We even had some excitement. We had a little fire in the middle of the room there, I guess. I really haven't heard how it happened just yet, but we'll just let it be at that, I guess. So, but it was good. No arguing or discussing or anything, not a little bit of business here or there, maybe got discussed, but not a lot. It was just good relationship. So I want to thank all of you, and at this time, I want to wish all of you the best. Hope you have a good holidays, and I wish you all the best for 2023. And may it all stay working together like we are right now. So, and I'll move on from there and get off my soapbox here. We'll go to our zoning reports and ordinances. Report number 1, Leon and Ann Luker Vacation Trust, Town of Black Wolf. Supervisor Sestera. Let me find, just hold on here. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve Report 001.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. Mandatory ordinance number 120122, rezoning from A2 General Agriculture District to R1 Rural Residential District for tax parcel number 0040124. Supervisor Sestera. Yes. Gotta get that off. I can't. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. Mandatory ordinance number 120222, Winnebago County Planning and Zoning Department amending Chapter 5, Chapter 13 Municipal Code for the Town of Neepy-Escom. Supervisor Hintz.
I move to approve a mandatory ordinance 12/02/22.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Carried. Resolutions and ordinances. Resolution number 144-12-2022, commendation for Lori Hilla. Personnel and Finance. Supervisor Cox.
Please accept the resolution 144-12-2022 for the commendation of Lori Pella. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, you're on. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. Resolution number 145-12-2022, commendation for Charles Romberg. Supervisor Cox.
Please accept the resolution 145-12-2022 for the commendation for Charles Romberg.
Second. Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. Ordinance number 146-12-22, amend Winnebago County General Code Section 19.18 to allow fireworks to be utilized on county property with required local fireworks permits, sufficient insurance coverage, and the approval of the county executive. Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the adoption of ordinance 146-12, 2022. Let me first explain, I'm bringing this forward because I'm the chairman of the Parks Committee. Give you a little brief history. I got a call a couple weeks ago from Adam, the Parks Director, saying that PCI, which is a group who a couple years ago, they're a group that they put on fireworks shows. And a couple years ago, we were in contention to get this convention at Sunnyview Expo Center. But they decided to go the other way for other reasons. Well, I guess they called up the county executive's office and said they'd be interested in coming, and they always liked the expo grounds and they'd like to come here. But one thing the county executive's office and Adam found out that while fireworks have been put off on places like the airport and the AA and the fairgrounds for at the Expo Center for the fair, there's nothing in our ordinance that allows it. In fact, I think Mary Ann Miller can back me up. I think it says that disallowed it. And so we had to have a special meeting to change this ordinance to allow the have fireworks be put off on county grounds. And we are still waiting to hear from this convention. One of the benefits, they have a couple public shows, and that's why we need this ordinance change, not just for us, for the parks and for the events there, but also, like I say, I have heard that it's been used at the airport in the AA. So that's my reason. We're bringing it forward. Any questions? I'm sure you can talk to Adam and or the Corporation Council.
Thank you. Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I received a couple calls from a adjoining municipality, and their lands obviously border county properties, especially in the area that's being discussed. So my question is Adam here?
Yes.
My question, and I'm sure you're aware of the concerns that have been raised. So this ordinance says that the Parks Department in particular would be allowed to entertain fireworks and shows or whatever. The concern is that once they start lighting the fireworks, they might land in areas that would be subject to safety issues. So what assurances do we have as a board that that is all going to be factored in? First question.
Yep, no, good question. So as what's part of the ordinance is on line 25 of the ordinance, what's key is that whoever is going to, whatever the organization is that's going to set off fireworks, whether it's Air Venture, whether it's County Fair, whoever it may be, that they need to get a permit from the town, village, or city, and that's state statute. So each municipality will be working through that and determine, and will need, if they need to see a site plan or a plan for cleanup, as you're talking about, or damage. So every organization that would light off fireworks would have to go through that process with that municipality.
Let me follow up and clarify that. I'm not referring to approval by a municipality to discharge the fireworks. In other words, you could light them on Winnebago County. I'm concerned with where they're going to land. So are we saying that the adjoining municipality would still have to give approval for that?
At this point, the way it's worded is wherever the fireworks are being lit off. So,
Yes,
for instance, County Expo Grounds is a good example of there's city and village, or city and town. And some of the events, or particularly the event PGI, if they do come to the Expo Grounds, will be lighting off in both municipalities, which requires them to get a permit in both municipalities. So both municipalities would have to approve a permit.
Okay, so but yourself as director, you also have to approve it, and I assume you would not approve it if there was a safety issue involved as to where they're going to land.
Correct. I mean, we work with both, like for instance, in the case of the expo, we work with city and town fire departments and work through a lot of, we're working with public safety to make sure it's safe.
And now, for the benefit of a supervisor, in town government, fireworks permits are approved or disapproved by the town chairman. So hopefully our town chairman are aware of that, and hopefully it's done in a safe manner. I'm going to support this, but I do need to denote the concerns that were raised, so. Thank you.
Supervisor Gabbard.
So I'm from the town of Oshkosh, so I'm right in the middle of this. And I've got all the backdrops here, so I'm not new at this game. So he is correct that our town chairman will approve or not approve that permit. I know you've met with him and you've met with one of the supervisors. So that everybody knows what's going on, our town chairman is not going to approve the permit. And that's true. I'm not facetious on this, okay? I think this is a well-worded document. But I also know that the airport isn't in a township, it's in the city, where the fireworks are lit off. City recently changed their ordinance, if I'm not mistaken, to allow the county to have events that fireworks are lit off. I'm a fireworks person, so I'm just going to do my speech here to you. So when the EAA has fireworks, it's in the city of Oshkosh. Mute point on that end of it, okay? So the Netzer property is the property in question here. That's still in the town. And our town chairman is concerned, and I know he weighed this to you, that if we are doing this in August at an event on the Netzer property, he feels it's not such a good idea in that location when you have all that other property to the west, where you have a stage, parking, and everything like that. We have a trailer court across A, which could be affected by this. It's going to be dry in August. The Netzer property at this point is not set up to do that. You have the community gardens in there. So there's a lot of innuendos in the backdrop, and I truly believe that you will do a good job at this, okay? That's not the point here. But if we, as a township, have an issue with safety, you can have any fire truck you want sitting there, but if something goes awry, something could happen, and there are residences that live there. How are you going to handle that? It's more of a you versus the town, because you have so stated, as I have heard, that that's the best location to have them shot off, right? And they're quite large, some of this stuff. So how are you going to appease our township to convince our town chairman that he should issue you a permit?
Well, and I just want to, there are a couple questions in there, or thoughts in there. First of all, I just want to address, yes, there is a potential event with PGI coming. Part of the reason we did also, we've been going through the recognification, and one of the things we noticed with this, we obviously have existing, for instance, like you mentioned with AirVenture being in the city of Oshkosh. If, however, the county, even though the city allows it, the county code doesn't allow it on county property. So current events that are ready, light off fireworks every year, according to county code, are not technically allowed to. Even if the city gives them permission, it's still county property. In regards to the town of Oshkosh and working with them, we've been working with the town of Oshkosh for about a month now on this project. We don't have an official site plan yet from the organizers because we're still working through a contract. So I've told the town that numerous times as well, that we don't necessarily have a site plan in place yet, or have had those conversations with the town. We've been just keeping them apprised of the situation, that there's going to be a fireworks permit coming, that this organization's interested. So we've been working through, we've been talking to the, we've so far talked to the city fire department. I know 3 years ago, the city and town, when this came a few years ago, I know those two the town and the city had conversations, the fire departments. So I know part of the setup of this particular event, if this event were to come, is that there's a lot of ground fireworks that you can't see if you put it in other areas, and you need 2,000 feet of distance. So, I'm more than happy to meet with anyone and show kind of the logistics and the reasoning behind why this is the best spot on the property. And it's mostly just due to space. We do have a stage. The problem is part of the stage has a cover, so you can't see fireworks when you're sitting underneath part of the stage, half of it. And then also it doesn't go far enough back. It doesn't go 2,000 feet. So we have been working with the town, and we, like you said, I met the town chairman. One of the other board members wanted to go out there as well. And then actually I called the third board member too, just to make them aware. So we, as a department, we've been trying to communicate and be as transparent as possible. But at this point, we don't have a contract with anybody or have an event yet at this point.
But this is going to be a tough gig for you. And it is, just because of that, of the town chairman not going to sign the permit, okay? So, and I know that you've kept everybody informed. I know you've had the meetings. So when do you think you'll have a site plan?
So if the organizers choose Winnebago County, our first step would be we need to know what exactly your site plan is, because we need to be able to make sure we've developed a accurate fee for the event and can put that in the contract and those types of things.
Sooner than later, would you think 30 to 60
It would
days?
it would need to be sooner than later, yes.
Okay.
From their standpoint too.
I'm going to say okay, but it's not my okay, because I plan on attending this event, but there's a barrier there, and I don't know if you can get through that barrier.
Yep, and we try to work with we want
And
to
I
be
know
we want to
that
work with
you're very
everybody.
good at working with people. That's not my thing here. So I hope you get it, and as soon as you think you're there, the site plan is going to become very important for what you're going to do.
Correct.
So answer the question, if you think that you might use the Netzer property, what do the people with the community gardens, you're talking 2,000 feet, I'm worried about those people. What do they do for that week?
For that week, they are far, from my understanding, and we haven't had some of these conversations with the organization yet. From my understanding, because they need a certain amount of feet from each set of fireworks, our spectators are going to be would be closer than the community garden is.
Okay, thank you. And just, if you keep everybody informed, and as a side note, if you'd let me know what's going on too.
Absolutely.
Because maybe I can influence some things that would make this happen a little easier, but right now, as of this morning, no go with signing a permit.
Sure.
But we don't know enough yet.
Right.
To make that, that could change. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Supervisor Gustafson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this has been pretty well hit on the head of the loose ends regarding safety of this event. And I notice also this resolution hasn't gone to committee, and I think it'd probably be best to answer a lot of the loose ends there. So I'm going to actually make a motion to refer this resolution to the Parks and Recs Committee.
Second. I thought it already went, but motion has been made and seconded to send it back to Parks and Recreation Committee. I'm going to call on the chairman here because I thought it had gone there, but Chairman of the Parks?
One thing I forgot in my introduction, we had a special meeting of this last Tuesday, and it was a 5-0 vote, and since that went out, that was after the resolutions went out. We couldn't include that vote in the package. So the Parks Committee has looked at this. We had a good hour discussion, if not more, and it was voted to approve it 5-0.
Okay, so there's still a motion made and seconded on the floor, huh?
To refer, you just need a majority.
Right. Motion made and seconded to refer it back. You heard that they've already had one, but to refer it back and come back with the resolution. Anything, Supervisor Bender, on the motion?
Yes. The reason we had to have a special meeting is because PMI could be signing a contract any day, and we couldn't really wait until next month to do this. So if we lay this over and send it back to the committee, this whole deal is going to fall apart. It's between us and the racetrack in Kaukauna. One of the two of us are going to get this event. our charge is about 200,000, the racetrack's 400,000. You know, this is gonna add 3 nights. They figure there's gonna be about 13,000 people a night coming to this fireworks show. It's gonna be fireworks like you've never seen before. The first 7 days, they build fireworks because they're there to sell fireworks. It's basically a show put on. There'll be 7 nights of fireworks, and those are displays to sell the fireworks. Then they have a community night, 3 nights of fireworks that, like, you'll have never seen them before unless you went up to Wisconsin International Raceway, because that's where they held their last event. So it's an opportunity for people in the valley to see fireworks like they've never seen before. You know, they shoot fireworks in the town of Utica all the time on July 3rd. You know, there's nothing but farmland there, and I've never heard of any problem, you know, in all the years they shot those fireworks off. So I think it's an opportunity for the people in the valley to see something they haven't seen in years. So I sure hope we move this forward. And, you know, the parks could use the revenue. I mean, it's going to generate some money to the parks. You know, we have shelters that need work, and, you know, that's what we're all about. They say they want us to use the expo and use the grounds to create revenue so we can basically fix things on our own instead of asking the county for the money. Well, this is going to be a revenue source that maybe we'll make $35,000 to $75,000. And if we turn it down, I'm sure they won't come back again. They only come back every 3 or 4 years.
Supervisor Gustafson on the question. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to kind of actually reference something that Supervisor Binder had just made reference to, I believe that the WIR had actually pulled their support of this event, and so now they were actually looking for a new location. So there's definitely some questions to be had that if they're coming to us as a second choice, what obviously, when it comes back to it, full circle, safety concerns of such event. Again, not saying I'm completely against this event by any means. It's just I think there's some loose ends that we definitely need to wrap up here before putting our stamp of approval on it.
Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So nowhere in this resolution does it talk about PCI. Maybe I missed it. So 10 seconds, what is PCI? I don't really know. Is it a trade show for fireworks? Is that what we're talking about?
Adam, you want to go ahead now?
Okay. All right, thank you.
Supervisor Cox.
I don't have any confidence in being able to vote for this without it having gone through committee and had a vote. I understand that you're running short on time, but we really should have had some sort of a committee vote to begin with, so we know where we stand.
We had one.
It's not here. It's not on the resolution at all. No way.
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're talking about fireworks, we're talking about events, we're talking about professionals lighting them off. I would like to amend this resolution to include the presence of a county...
We have a motion on the floor right now, Supervisor. We've already have a motion on the floor right now.
Say again?
There's a motion on the floor right now to send it back to committee. There is a motion on the floor.
Okay, I'll hold
Okay,
my...
thank you. Supervisor Hintz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It appears we're having a lot of talking about one event, and this is actually a blanket for the entire county. And it seems like we're wasting a lot of time on one event. It's already been stated that it went to committee during a special committee meeting after the printing of our packets, and it was voted on 5-0. Do we trust our committees or do we not trust our committees? I think that the motion should be rescinded and we should vote up or down on this as it stands because this has gone through committee already. We don't need to send it back to committee. We don't need to sit here and play we're not going to get this done if we don't do it right now because that's not the situation. That's not the situation we're in. We're in the situation right now where this went to committee like it's supposed to. It came to us. It was passed unanimously by the committee, and I think we deserve to give them the respect that they know what they're doing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Dowling.
Call the question.
Okay, question has been called. There's a motion. We need a second. We got a second. A motion is made and seconded. the question on whether to sit, pardon? To sit. What? For the referral, right. To refer it back to the committee.
A motion to refer is a majority.
This will be a majority vote, so. So this is majority?
No, the question is 2/3, refer is majority.
Okay, 2/3 to call the question. So now we're making a motion to call the questions. All those in favor of calling the question signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Got that done. Now we can go back. Now the motion is to go ahead and to refer it back to committee. I got some things up here. I gotta get this off. Some people that. Supervisor Eisen, did you have your? No. Okay. All right. So all those in favor of sending it back to committee signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Nay. It does not go back to committee. So we're back on ordinance number 146/12/2022, amend Winnebago County General Code, section 19.18 to allow fireworks to be utilized on county property with require local fireworks permit, sufficient insurance coverage, and approval of county executive. We'll vote by machine on this time. All in favor of this, vote A. If you're against, vote nay.
Point of order.
I asked you before and you said no. Just hold on. We've started the vote already. What?
You're voting on the question.
We already voted on the question.
You voted on
We voted on the question.
whether to send it back to committee.
That's what we're doing right now. On the amendment, I'm sorry, we're voting on the amendment. You are correct. We're voting on the amendment.
I'm sorry, Tom. It's on the resolution.
Okay, just hold on. Can you clear this so I can get it, or can you bring him up? I can't hear what he's saying.
Okay. First of all, are you stopping the vote?
We're gonna stop, yes. Because Supervisor Eisen had his hand up. So just hold your votes, because I gotta,
To the resolution.
okay.
Okay, we're discussing the fireworks resolution. I would like to make an amendment to add the presence of a county deputy for crowd control and display security. And I would do that by adding Roman numeral 5 on line 31. And I would word it, have a sheriff's deputy present for crowd control and fireworks display security. If we're going to have an ordinance for fireworks, and it's going to have points 1 to 4, I would amend it to have point 5.
Lack of a second. Okay, so now we're back on. Now you can put your vote thing back up. We're voting on what's
Now we're voting on the ordinance as presented.
as presented.
Yes.
Okay, now we're voting on as
As written.
as written, as I read it.
Yeah.
Now we're voting on ordinance number 146/12/2022. If you're in favor of it, push yea. If you're against it, push nay. Yes, they went to had to do that, so. All right. Ordinance number 147-12-2022. Amend Winnebago County General Code, Section 5.04, Parent 2, Parent A, pertaining to cremation permit fees. Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the approval of ordinance number 147-12-2022.
And it was seconded by, who seconded it here? You got it? Supervisor Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Number one, I'm confused as to why there is a permit fee for something associated with death. And number two, why we are so anxious to raise this fee on cremation fees. Having gone through it where I had to pay for someone's cremation because their life insurance wasn't enough, I just think adding misery to people who are already suffering is just wrong. And I will definitely not be voting for this.
Cheryl, would you like to come up and explain it?
The cremation permit fee was established a long time ago. It has not been raised. I've been with the county since 2012, and it has always been $150. When we issue the permit to allow for the cremation to take place, that requires somebody from our office to go to wherever that body is. We have to do a full examination. We document, anything that we're seeing with the body, and we also have to look at the cause and manner of death to make sure that there's no question as to how it was signed. So there are a lot of things that are involved with it, and that is the cost pretty much associated
All
with
right,
that
thanks
fee.
for that explanation. I was assuming that it was just a fee that the county tacked on just
No.
to increase, all right.
No.
I understand the reason for it.
Yeah,
then. Thank
and
you.
like I said, you know what I mean? Looking at the cause and manner of death and doing that examination, that's required by state statute for us, so.
Thank you so much.
Not seeing any other questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Carried. Resolution number 148-12-2022, approve values on ream tax deeds. Supervisor Cox.
You just called me? Please accept the resolution, approve values on REM tax, 148-12-2022.
Seconded by Albert. Any discussion? Don't see any discussion. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Carried. Resolution number 149-12-2022, authorize transfer of jurisdiction and maintenance of one segment of county highway to the town of Clayton and accepting one segment of town road to the Winnebago County Highway. Supervisor Albert.
I move for the adoption of Resolution 149-12-2022.
Seconded by Harrison. All right. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. Resolution number 150-12-2022, amending the table of organization for Sheriff's Office. Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the passage of Resolution 150-12-2022.
Who seconded? Hanson? Okay. You got it? Oh, you got the motion made and seconded? You got all that?
We have a
short presentation. If it's not necessary, we can not do it, but if you will allow me to speak briefly. Investigator Mike Seawall is our Internet Crimes Against Children investigator. He's been with us. He started in 2013 with the District Attorney's Office and our office. We shared his position. In 2016, we made him a full-time Internet Crimes Against Children investigator because he is amazing. You will see some of the things that he has accomplished, he and the other detectives in our detective bureau. And, I know that right now, some of you might be asking, why are we asking for table of organization change at the December meeting when we could have done this or should have done this at the time of budget? But Mike was headhunted by the Department of Criminal Investigation. They would have offered him a position that would have paid substantially more than what we're offering. However, we were able to get him to stay by creating a new position, which will allow us to actually increase what he does or broaden what he does with not just Internet Crimes Against Children, but we've, I don't know if you all receive scam alerts and phone calls, and maybe some of you have fallen victim to some form of identity theft. I am a victim of identity theft. My identity was stolen in 2014 through a Department of Defense breach, and I fight identity theft constantly. It is a weekly thing. I have lost money. I've gotten it back, but it's a horrible thing. We want to make things very uncomfortable for those that are trying to steal our identity, for those that are trying to steal our hard-earned money when they could just go get a job and do things the way that we all do. So I'm going to let Mike talk now and explain what he has done and where we are headed.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me tonight. I appreciate it. I'm just going to run through a real quick presentation, give you an idea of, I know a lot of you have already seen this before, so I'll try to make it a little quick, but give you an idea of what we've done over the past 10 years or so since I started at the Sheriff's Office, and kind of give you a vision of where we think we're going with this program. All right, so what we do. So a majority of what we do is proactive undercover online investigation. So I'm sure you've heard about different things in the news where people pose as children or adults and they go after people who are trying to exploit children. So that's something that we do in Winnebago County better than anyone else in the nation right now. We have 2 dedicated people, myself and another investigator, that it's all we do is we conduct these proactive undercover investigations. So instead of waiting for a call for service to come in like normal police calls are, we're going out and we're taking care of the problem before it becomes a problem. So we run a lot of these operations. One of them was named Operation Silent Shield. We named it that because we want to be that shield before a real child is getting exploited online. We also conduct peer-to-peer child exploitation material investigations. So that's basically people who are trading images and videos of kids being sexually assaulted. Again, that's a proactive type of investigation. So we go out into our own county, into Neenah, Oshkosh, Menasha, Amro, all the jurisdictions, and we locate people who are downloading this material and try to hold them accountable for attaining that kind of material. So we deal with cyber tips a lot. So cyber tips come from all of the different social media platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, each platform has a way to police their own platform. A cyber tip is basically them telling the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, hey, there's a problem here, and we want to try to figure it out. So NECMEC then sends it to the appropriate jurisdiction. So when it comes to Winnebago County, Oshkosh, Neenah, typically I'm the one who receives that cyber tip, and then we follow up and try to hold people accountable for unwanted conversations, for sextortion type investigations, and any images and videos that are being sent on that platform. So right now I'm a task force officer with the FBI, so I'm on the Violent Crimes Against Children Task Force in Milwaukee. So we conduct all these investigations on a federal level as well. And I'm a liaison between our office in Oshkosh and our community and the federal government and the FBI. which gives us a lot of different resources that a lot of different agencies in our area don't have access to. So when we run search warrants in our county and adjacent counties, we have access to a polygrapher, to agents from Milwaukee and Green Bay, and TFOs from all over the state. So that's one advantage of being a federal liaison and having me stationed right here in Oshkosh. National and international collaboration, I'm going to go over an international operation that we ran since 2020, so I won't go into that too much. But we also assist agencies and DOC with high-risk offenders. So sex offenders have the highest recidivism rate out there, and so what we do is we work with DOC, and we basically just try to ensure that the people who are on the registry are doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? They're not having fake profiles on social media, and they're not corresponding with people that they shouldn't be corresponding with. So we're partnering with different agencies to make sure that that's happening with offenders in our county. Skip through that. So undercover chats, they happen on all the different platforms. We have personas on all these different platforms in an attempt to try to keep our children, our community safe each and every single day. So here's just one example. This is Tommy Jenkins. So he'd been on our radar for about a decade or so with sexual assault allegations in this county and adjacent counties, but unfortunately he was never held fully accountable for that. Tommy ended up leaving back to Indiana, where he's originally from, but he was living in Oshkosh for about 10 years. And as part of an ongoing investigation, I was able to utilize one of our undercover personas, and Tommy ended up walking almost 350 miles from Indiana up to Neenah, where me and FBI agents were able to place him under arrest and hold him accountable for not only communicating with a fake 14-year-old girl, which was myself, but the number of allegations that he'd had in the past that he wasn't held accountable for. And the result of that is he got 10 years in federal prison, and he'll be on lifetime GPS in the federal government. We'll be able to know where he's at all times, which is probably the most important part of that. Even more importantly is he went to Indiana for a reason, right? It got hot up here. He understood that we were looking at him. I had 2 4-hour interviews with him where he would not admit to the things that he did. So we decided to go back to Indiana. And in our county and at our sheriff's office and our ICAC task force, that doesn't sit well. Right? He's going to Indiana for a reason, to find more kids, to find more opportunities, and we made sure that didn't happen. And it showed his drive when he was willing to walk 350 miles back up here to meet me as a 14-year-old girl. So I just want to give you a quick rundown. So this was what I called kind of my wall of shame. We were arresting so many people so quickly in our county and adjacent counties that I had to put pictures up and write their actual case number underneath them to keep track of all the cases that I had going at any given moment. And you'll see here the different people that are right here in our community. We had multiple U.S. military members, individuals that worked at the Department of Corrections, a pastor, a school custodian at an elementary school in Winnebago County, an executive director for Habitat for Humanity, a teacher, and a sheriff candidate who ran for sheriff in Outagamie County 2 terms ago, or last term? 2 terms ago. So these are the people we deal with, right? My suspects, my perpetrators are different than, say, the drug trade or anything like that. They're people who are standing next to you in the grocery line that have families and kids and relatives and have jobs that are important, and they make decisions in this world. And for us, we need to dedicate a lot of time, resources, and technology to that, and that's why it's important that we continue to grow. We don't stay stagnant in what we're doing right now, and that makes all the difference in the world. So I'm going to briefly go over Operation Kickboxer. So it was an international undercover operation. It was a collaboration between our sheriff's office, FBI Milwaukee, Green Bay, and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Green Bay. So here was our stats. So it started in January 2020. It was an undercover investigation. We were able to identify 3,200 suspects throughout the world. Over 100 search warrants were addressed. Well over 75 arrests. I got to update the presentation. We're probably well over 100 at this point. But the most important was 79 children were saved in this operation. So 2 years, we were able to rescue 79 kids in different states throughout the country. One right in our state here up in Wausau from a live sexual assault. So someone that was sexually assaulting a child that we were able to identify and get them arrested within 2-3 days and keep them safe. And these are the things that we want to do, right? Not only do we want to protect kids in our county, but all over the world if we possibly can, okay? Here's just some accomplishments and awards our ICAC task force has had. We received the 2021 Investigative Excellence Award from the U.S. Attorney's Office. We were nominated for the 2021 FBI Director's Award, which is the highest honor the FBI bestows on non-FBI agents for their agency. The 2019 DOJ ICAC Case of the Year, so that's Wisconsin Department of Justice, and the 2016 Wisconsin DOJ ICAC Forensic Analyst of the Year Award. So new trends. So by the numbers, sextortion, and this is pretty relevant right now. The FBI and Homeland Security just put out an emergency alert to the entire country that sextortion is going through the roof. Sextortion leads to one of the most unimaginable things that you can put in your mind, right? You have a 10 to 14-year-old boy who gets tricked online and is sending a picture to who he thinks is a girl. That girl turns out to be someone just trying to extort him for money. And that young man then has that problem in his head thinking, what do I do now? Do I tell my parents? I can't do that. Do I tell law enforcement? I can't do that. And unfortunately, a lot of times that turns into teen suicide. They get pinned in a corner and they can't get anywhere fast because they just feel so trapped. Part of my job is I do a lot of outreach in the community. I talk to schools, Oshkosh School District. We do elementary school presentations. And I want to be that sounding board for the children of our communities so that they have someone they feel comfortable coming to. I don't wear a uniform, right? I don't necessarily talk like a police officer. So when I do my presentations, I make sure they know and they get my phone number, my direct number to my office, and I tell them, when you need me, I'll be there. I'm not your parent. I'm not showing up in a squad car. I am just there as your resource to make sure that you're okay, and I will take care of you. 1 in 4 victims was under 13 years old, and almost half of them were threatened every single day for money, or they were going to release the pictures to their friends and family. Cyber tips, I discussed this before, but us, much like every other jurisdiction in our state and throughout the country, our cyber tips are up almost 50%. So those are new allegations coming across the board. And to give you an idea of what it takes to investigate a cyber tip, it's approximately, we get 2 to 3 new ones a month. It takes about two to 3 months to fully investigate a cyber tip to its completion. So if we're getting that many cyber tips every single month, that means we need to dedicate even more resources to the problem that it just keeps escalating. Finally, elder fraud and financial scams. So I'm sure you've all had a phone call, even today, that said spam risk on it, right? Those are just going through the roof now. And we want to dedicate maybe one body of this new special victims unit that I'll be running to just those types of crimes, right? And have an educational component to it where we go out to different communities and we talk to people about this is what they're doing, these are the trends, this is what to look out for, and here's who you contact if you think something is suspicious in someone that you're talking to. So how can we address all these new issues? So a coordinated effort by a dedicated subunit in the Detective Division, which we'd name this the Special Victims Unit, right, for child crimes and for elder abuse and things of that nature. I will continue to act as a federal liaison and dedicate resources to our county and give us an advantage in catching these types of suspects and perpetrators. Continue to run these proactive investigations to keep everyone's children, their grandchildren, their nieces and nephews safe each and every single day. And finally, propose a regional task force led by our county to combat child exploitation. We have a MEG unit that deals with drugs every single day, a dedicated force to that in our region, but we do not have a dedicated ICAC task force for our region. That's something that I feel strongly about, and I know I have a lot of support from the sheriff and the sheriff's office and the FBI to go and execute that for Northeast Wisconsin as well. So I know I talked really fast, threw a lot at you, but if there's any questions, please feel free.
Supervisor Toughlin. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not really a question. Just wanted to thank you for protecting, obviously, the most vulnerable in our communities, and I will wholeheartedly support this. This is a drop in the bucket for the amount of work that you do, so thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the resolution, we're simply giving you a different job title. That's my understanding. Does this mean that we're going to be hiring more employees then?
No, we're not hiring more employees. We may reassign some as our table or as our manning allows us to, but
Okay.
Mike would move from the investigator position into a lieutenant's position, and you can see the financial impact is relatively small.
Correct.
But it gives us, Mike was, he was actually in a deputy position, and I had a sidebar agreement, or have a sidebar agreement with the union, and they've been very good about it, but it limits what he can do and what he can't do. By making him a lieutenant and putting him in an administrative position, I have, full authority to do that without any kind of contractual or grievance issues.
Thank you.
Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanksgiving week, as I was Zooming with some friends from church, a man came onto our Zoom thing who'd come in a few times over the past year, chatting us up, and what finally happened was he sent us an inappropriate link to a link to an inappropriate website of his. He sent us pictures of girls he claimed were his nieces, but something made me feel funny about this, and I did a reverse Google search, discovered they were not, in fact, his children. I contacted the deputy, and he has called me a couple of times. We've emailed a couple of times. He's taking care of this. I feel so safe having Deputy Sewell, in charge of this department. He's invaluable. That's all I want to say. Thank you, sir.
Supervisor Gabbard.
One's a question for Mike, and one's a comment for Mike. When I read this, I was hoping it was you, because pre-COVID, you gave a seminar out at the Sheriff's Department, which I attended, and I thought, there's the guy. So I am glad to see it's you. My question, so thank you for the update on the presentation. Super. Question for you, Tommy Jenkins, since you mentioned his name, is he a 980, or is it, what is he classified as?
I don't think
Or isn't he classified?
he's not classified. So he's going to be in federal prison for,
You said 10 years?
yeah, 10 years, and that was in 2018. So he's in there till 2028.
Then what happens when he gets out?
Well,
What
he'll
is
be on lifetime GPS.
Okay.
And then where he ends up, we'll know about it at all
Okay.
times. And again, like my federal connection, I'll have access to all that.
Super.
And we'll work with the U.S. Attorney's Office, who is really invested in that case as well, to make sure that there's nothing that happens that we don't know about with him. And like I said, I work with DOC all the time too, both on the federal and state level. So we'll have a pretty good awareness of when he gets out and what happens with him at any
And
given moment.
another comment. I like the connection you have with the U.S. Attorney and the FBI, which I didn't know we had an FBI office in Green Bay. And you, I think it's a great match. So I'm glad you're staying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just got a quick question. Do you also handle like scams for the elder people?
Yeah, so that's the plan, is to give us a more robust
Well, because
presence.
I actually know someone that got scammed, and I've been helping her out, so, but, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and to kind of address that too, going off my federal connection too, is we can actually, as a TFO, I can work with the FBI and we can actually find people wherever they are. So we've had arrests in Nigeria, all throughout Africa and South Asia and things like that. So it's not like the typical you talk to, you name the agency and they go, well, this ends up in wherever. What am I supposed to do about it? Get on a plane and go find them? We can do that. We can actually go find them and figure out what's going on. So that not only we might not be able to get the money back necessarily, but we'll be able to make sure that doesn't happen to somebody else in our community at a later time. So,
Supervisor Fran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that this is not new information, but it's new information. I I kind of talk in riddles, so my husband says. Just one is cognizant of this. One does not realize that the extent of it. I want to thank you. And the other day when I was listening to you speak, I was asking Sheriff Motz about how you stay in your right mind. How do you stay in your right mind? This is chronic care.
Yeah, so I think I'm built a little different for one, but I will say the sheriff's office does a good job of making sure that we do have meetings with the counselor. Then I have a separate counsel that I meet on my own that I chose myself. And then I have the FBI every single year. We get sent out to Washington, D.C., and we get what's called safeguarded. So basically we have a psychological evaluation based on a baseline that we've had on our first meeting with them. And they basically tell you whether or not you're fit for duty. So if they come up with anything in that meeting or that psychological exam that you're teetering off the edge or you're not fit for it anymore, you're pulled from that position right away. And then that would be directly reflected in my position at the sheriff's office as well. And I think the high frequency, so what we did in Operation Kickboxer has never been done in the country, not once. That was the highest number. We went through probably 750,000 videos and images of child exploitation material. So, and we watched it 3 times. So approximately 3 million times we sat and witnessed that every single day for 2 years. Now what I will say is this, is having those baselines and realizing like where you're at mentally is really important. And just knowing, having a good structure at work, having people that I can talk to about it, and then being in this position where I can take more of a bird's eye view of it instead of doing it on a day-to-day basis is going to be really impactful on our ability to keep being efficient and proactive in what we're doing. And since I've done it for so long, I know the signs in other people, and I can be a good gauge as to when people should be doing it, when they should not be doing it. And I've been told that I will have some say in when people are put on this task force or in our unit, that I'll be able to have that impact and that point of contact with them.
Well, I can't thank you enough for doing what you do. I've got 3 grandchildren, and I'll tell you that it's one of those things that's on our radar all the time. And my 41-year-old, even back then when he was a child, it was on my radar. It's got to be 100-fold today to what it was back then.
Absolutely, yes. I think with the technology changing every single day, that's the hardest part, is us keeping up with it, and us staying cognizant of, where people are going and what they're doing and what they're saying and the different lingo that they go through. That's our job, right? Our job is to make sure that we're constantly the best at what we do, and we take great pride in that here.
The other thing you said the other day that I found absolutely fascinating was how many websites there are. And you said as soon as you take one down or one is made obsolete, there's another one popping up.
More like once one's gone, there's 10 more. Really. It's unbelievable.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Sheriff Motz, and thank you, Mike. I'm not going to, it's just unbelievable having young children. I guess my question is for the sheriff. This problem isn't going away. It seems like, cybercrime, the child pornography, I guess, is just going to continue to increase. Is this something that you're going to put another position in your budget next year? Because it just seems like it's getting worse and worse and worse as time goes on.
Yes, don't be surprised if the next budget cycle we ask for positions to address this issue. But as Mike stated, one of the things that we're trying to do is create utilizing other agencies within our area and their staff, because they're doing some of the same things. But if we work together collectively, we'll be able to address it in a more effective and efficient manner. But yes.
So one more question. Outagamie County, Brown County, do they have the same person in their sheriff's office?
Brown County does. I don't know about Outagamie.
Okay.
Yeah, Outagamie has one person. The big difference that we as an office are compared to other counties is I've been afforded the ability just to do this since I started 10 years ago. So when you can just do this, it kind of changes how good, your expertise in it, your training level and things of that nature. Unfortunately, a lot of other counties and jurisdictions, they have someone that does it like a quarter of the time, right? They'll get a cyber tip here and there alongside 10 burglaries. So they'll have to try to figure out, again, how do I go about solving this cyber tip, right? So we're unique in that way that we are, we're one of the only agencies that just has people doing this, right? And it shows. It shows in what we've been capable of doing, because if I didn't have that time and if I had to deal with other aspects of things, and I have helped with major crimes, like we get homicides and stuff like that, and we each lend our own expertise to that kind of situation as well. But yeah, there is definitely a difference. But my goal with this would be, with the regional task force, is to get other agencies to step up and go, yes, we also see the problem. And yes, we do want to dedicate somebody to this so they can just focus on this and we can take care of the problems in our entire region.
So if somebody from Calumet County would call or Waushara County would call, would they get referred to Winnebago County for these types of things?
Structurally, I think, depending on how we decided to go about it, I'm sure you're aware of our MEG unit, right? We have deputies that work undercover and do those types of things. It would look a lot like that, right? So we would attack it as a group. So it would be if Cal County has a problem, instead of bringing 4 detectives that half of them have no idea what a cyber tip is or what an IP address is, our hope is that we'll have the ability to bring 6 investigators that know everything about ICAC to be able to address that search warrant, that suspect, the paperwork, subpoenas, all that with a really good knowledge base to be more effective in what we're trying to accomplish.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all those in favor of amending the table of organization for the sheriff's office signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Resolution number 151-12-2022 authorized the Winnebago County Clerk to publish a notice of referendum regarding the legalization, decriminalization of cannabis in the state of Wisconsin. Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the adoption of Resolution 151-122022.
Seconded.
Mr. Chairman, I'm bringing this forward for a few reasons. Number one, we have a number of new supervisors who weren't here the last time we voted for this. The second reason is since then time, there have been a few more states who have passed by referendum in their own states the legalization of marijuana. And the main reason I want to get at, the reason I'm proposing it now is because I was listening during the fall gubernatorial debate or election, and the governor said that if he was reelected, he was going to plan on putting this in his budget. And I think it would be good timing if we would approve to put this ballot measure on the ballot to give it some advice, not advice, but information to our local legislatures about what we feel about this issue. This issue does not legalize marijuana. In fact, if you oppose it, you can vote no. There are 4 different choices that we made. What I want people to concentrate not on marijuana is good or bad, but I want to concentrate, do you think people should have a say on this issue? And the only way they have a say on this issue is by referendum. Yes, it's advisory. That's because those legislatures won't do anything, but maybe they will do something. So I think we should have the same choice in this county that they had in other places like in past November at the city of Appleton, where they got to vote on this issue. That's why I asked that this be passed. And if we're not going to use a referendum to do these type of issues, then, Mr. Chairman, then I think that we should not pass resolutions and consider resolutions like advising the state to do issues like we did last month about the foreign-owned farm. So that's why I'm proposing it out. Thank you.
Supervisor Nussbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are living in an addiction crisis, in an overdose crisis, and here we are trying to legalize the first stepping stone. I think it's ridiculous.
Supervisor Bender.
I would be in support of the medical marijuana. My dad had severe arthritis. It started when he was about 72. We could get by with a leave. When he was about 80, he was on basically Vicodin. By the time he was on like 84, he was taking 10 milligram pills of oxycodone a day. I mean, I seen the man basically in so much pain and nothing would ever give him any relief. And he goes, boy, I sure would like to get some of that medical marijuana. What could it hurt? He went from 200 pounds to 140 pounds. Oxycodone just basically destroyed him, you know. So it's like, I wouldn't vote for it for basically recreational use. But when you're taking oxycodone, you've seen the big settlement we got, and they pushed those pills like they were candy. And the pharmacist said, I've never seen anybody get as much 10 milligram oxycodone pills in a day. He goes, it's unbelievable amount of medication they're giving you. But if you looked at his back, he had like golf ball size humps on his spine. You know, I mean, the man lived in severe pain. So I will support this. And even though it's only for an advisory, if it ever does come to where it's for medical use, I don't see what you have to lose. If you're in that much pain and the pain medication we have isn't working, what is it going to hurt to try it?
Supervisor Gustafson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel I may be in a particularly special position to speak on this issue. There's some conflicts here actually with the resolution itself, stating what the governor said that he would be doing, as well as what he has publicly put out as recent as yesterday. The governor had put out that he wanted legalization at first about a week ago, and then as of yesterday, he has also put out that he wants legalization of recreational marijuana. So I believe that in this statement of what he made and in reflection of the resolution, there's some conflicts. And I think a lot of these conflicts need to actually, before I have too much egg on my face on this one, I don't believe any of this has gone through committee yet, this referendum by any regards. So I'd actually like to make a motion to refer this to the legislative committee that will meet next month.
Motion's been made and seconded that it go back, or go to legislative committee. So now Supervisor Buck on the motion,
Not on referring it back to committee.
Supervisor Hintz,
Not on referring it back to committee either.
Supervisor Hanson.
Yes, a friendly amendment to the motion to also go to the Judiciary Committee, because I refer everyone to Christian Gossett's memo or directive that he put out in February of 2022.
Okay, got that in as a friendly amendment there then. Supervisor Norton.
Thank you. My question is for the clerk. For this to be on the April ballot, when would this board have to approve it by? And that's my timetable. I don't have a problem going to any committee, but my problem is that, you know, we get it back in January, we pass it, and then you tell me, or someone says, well, we can't put it on the ballot. What's the latest date that we can have some and put it on the ballot?
That's not pertaining to the motion and everything now. He's not talking about anything that's what, because there's a motion on the floor that's first.
We have a question for corporate counsel.
Line 40 addresses it. It says 70 days.
Okay. So I still need a date. So January, we meet, okay, they go to the Judiciary. Well, the legislative committee is not meeting until end of January. That means February. The February meeting, that's not going to get enough time, am I correct? So that's why I would pose this a motion, because if we wanted to do it, then if we do what was referring back to committee, we couldn't do it because we passed that deadline.
Supervisor Gabbard?
Okay, I'm referring it to legislative.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm all for that, and this time frame thing is not in my craw right now. This resolution needs to be cleaned up. I appreciate what Supervisor Gustafson said about new information, so I'm for referring it back to legislation. Thank you.
Okay, and that has to have how many? 2/3? Right. Majority. So it has to have a majority vote. This is to go to legislative and judiciary now. Goes to both of them, because it was amended.
Majority 18?
Majority should be 18, right? 18? Present, so yes, those that are present.
And we got 34? Thank
Just
you.
hold on. Supervisor Hintz?
Sorry, just a quick question, Mr. Chairman. If this were to go through both committees and come back and be referred back to us, would there be the possibility of a special meeting on the 24th to get that on the ballot? Just putting it out there because that's something that will have to be discussed also.
I don't know about if we'd have a special meeting for that.
Well, I'm saying because if they were trying to put something on the referendum and if it was referred to us because of the time frame. That's why I was asking now.
I do not believe, because we are having already a special session in the beginning, so. January 20th is the regular meeting, so if one of them boards want to have a meeting ahead of time, they could have it.
Okay,
And
just,
then 17th, right.
yeah, I
But
was
then
just,
it'd have to get in to have the resolution written ahead of that yet, so then you're looking at another week ahead of that.
because then we know what we're
So,
voting for.
2 weeks, so it's, either way, it's going to be cutting it close no matter what.
I just wanted to
Right.
check that out because that's
Right.
something to consider with all of this that's going on as well.
Correct. Supervisor Stafford?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a clarification, I understand about the January 24th deadline, right? However, if this were to go through those committees and come back to this board, and it was after that point, that wouldn't preclude this from going on to the next ballot, correct? Right? So if it doesn't make this ballot, it could be on the next ballot, whatever that ballot would be. When is the next ballot after that?
November. would be
November. There's no November,
no
so it'd be next year.
Next year.
Okay. And so with that said, if that were to pass after that point, would that just be on the ballot then, the next ballot? Or would this board have to revise and review before that came to fruition? Because there's quite a bit of time in between.
It would depend on how it was written. You'd have to specify that you want it for the next ballot of April.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
So, but they could, if they get it in time, they could still get it on there. But they'd have to have it in, so the resolution gets written, just so we get all these dates down straight now. Has to be into the clerk's office and into corporate counsel's office ahead of time to have the resolution.
Well, this would be the question. The question's drafted already.
Right.
We know what the question is, and that's what that does.
So you would, so in other words, you just put on there passed by such and such, so the two committees.
Though, when is legislative scheduled to meet?
I believe it is the last Monday of January.
Yeah. So this would be for the next ballot then?
Supervisor Buck?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's just be real transparent here. The idea of sending this back to two committees is to kill this. Not to give people the voice at the ballot box, which we don't have. The idea of sending it back to committee is to kill this, period. That's what the intent of the folks that want to do this. So I just want to make that real clear. It's not to let people's voices be heard at the ballot box. It's to kill this from not letting your constituents have a idea about this issue. Thank you.
Supervisor Hintz, one more time.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try and make this as brief as possible. I totally disagree with your statement, Mr. Buck. I will support this going back to committee. I am not against this. I am against the fact that they have none of the above as an option that's going to be on a ballot. I am against the fact that the number one reason that's on here is to significantly increase state and local revenues. I don't know what the purpose of holding a public poll on a ballot is. You don't hold a poll by ballot. You hold an election on a ballot. You hold an actual referendum that actually has teeth in it. You don't hold something like this. I want this to go back, and I want these committees to clean this up and bring something back so that people can have their say in the right way. So to characterize all of us that are going to be voting for this to go back, I'm sorry, that's insulting.
Supervisor Gabbard.
One quick thing, we could have had this go to committee before it got to us tonight. There was time to do this. So to use that as an excuse that that's going to kill it, I agree, transparent, we're going to either kill it by that way, or we're going to take a vote tonight and kill it, because this is a bad gig.
It is.
Not seeing any other lights, we'll vote now to send this back to legislative and also to JPS. So we'll vote by machine. So all those in favor, vote A. If you don't agree with it, vote nay.
Hold on.
It's passed. So it'll be going back to committees. Okay. Resolution number 152-12-2022, ongoing commitment of the oath of the Winnebago County Board. Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking for passage of resolution number 152-122022.
And is seconded by Supervisor Depperding. Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank the JPS committee.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Just wanted to thank the JPS committee for their work on this resolution. It may look kind of familiar to you. It's not quite in its original version that we saw it many months ago. When I saw it on the JPS meeting, I was not able to attend, but I sent an email with my concerns about how it was presented in committee, only referencing the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, when in reality the Constitution does have 27 amendments, and we all took an oath to uphold the entire Constitution. Among those after the 10th Amendment are the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery, the 14th Amendment granting due process and equal protections of the law, and the 15th Amendment granting the right to vote regardless of race or color, and the 19th Amendment granting women the right to vote. And I strongly encourage the committee to consider all of those amendments and the Constitution in its entirety. And I just want to thank them for taking that in consideration and adjusting the resolution accordingly. Thank you.
Not seeing any other questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Carried. $153 has been pulled and $154 has been pulled, or withdrawn. So we are open for adjournment. Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned.